be anything. Be careful what I wish for.
Maybe start out with what you're seeing, sort of the future evolution of this research going into the evolve. I said just to sort of touch on what the future of the research looks like.
Larry's making a suggestion to speak a little bit to the future of this type of research. Well, first I want to say thanks to all the awesome women that are here today presenting, and the ones that couldn't stay, and to all of you for coming out. I'm a student member of ERIE, and we've been talking about having a women's gathering for a while now, so it's great to see this actually happen. So I'll say briefly that I really feel that entheogens are some of the best technology we have available as facilitators of consciousness and evolution. And so I feel like there are no limits to where we can go with mindful application of this technology. And I'll leave it at that for now, because I'm sure other people think so too.
You know, in terms of my background's a nurse practitioner, in terms of like the medical world, I think that just with the popularity of integrative medicine, that in general, the general population is starting to become a lot more open-minded about the benefits of spirituality and mindfulness and consciousness, and it's kind of opening the door again for this sort of research.
I touched on it at the end when I spoke about the healing of our hearts and how that is the way through for all of us. And there's something very special and highly intelligent about these plant teachers. And so the potential for healing individually, families, ancestral lineage, communities, societies, in particular around sexuality, that there's so many areas in our culture that are influencing our way of connecting with this vital energy, and then how we are able to express or we're depressed. And Marianne Williamson mentioned something a couple days ago. I went to listen to her speak, and she said that, why is it that, gosh, someone might know the percentage, but a high number of women in North America are on antidepressants. How many women are taking fertility drugs? And all these substances that are depressing us collectively, and this energetic source that's not being able to be actualized. And that it's because we're, as a society, we're skewed. And yeah, women are depressed because they know it. They're sensitive. They know something's wrong. So I just feel like this is a way for all of us to cleanse and then revitalize our energies.
I believe that it's a really positive thing for so many people to be raising their voices and to be speaking about the powerful experiences that entheogens have brought to them, because for so long there has been a culture of fear, and we have been afraid to speak up about these very powerful things for fear that we will have legal troubles for doing so. And the more we can combine our voices and really advocate for the benefit of these really powerful connectors and things that show us that we are all a part of one life force, and make us realize that we do not have to fight against the earth or separate ourselves from it, or separate ourselves from other forms of life or other forms of existence. It can just make us stronger because we will have that energy and power to make us stronger and to amplify our voices as well, and to amplify our hearts and our consciousness. And it's really wonderful. I believe that there is a renaissance happening, and so many people have done so much to put work into this over the years, and it feels wonderful, and it's great to be here with all of you open-hearted and open-minded people.
I'm excited that entheogens are now being considered more seriously with academic research. As an academic, I'm excited that this is becoming more of a possibility. I mean, I know people have been kind of researching this for decades, obviously more prominent in the 60s, but there was, kind of a dieback of that. And I'm really excited to be a scientist in a time when this is starting to blossom as a field, and I feel very excited to be part of that. And I feel like there's a lot of potential that can be gleaned from the research that's being done all over the world on these substances.
I have a question for Yalila. You have been talking about the use of diets for healing women's sexuality and their traumas and their wounds. And I'm wondering if you have any experience of knowledge of doing the same things with men, if there's any type of experience that you can share about that. Because I'm wondering, is there a wound on the other side that needs to be healed as well?
What do the men in this room have to say about that? I chose specifically to highlight the voices of women in a research study in vegetalismo where the dominant voice has been men. And it's only because I'm a woman. So I actually encourage the men that I speak with to explore this area, and there is one in particular who's considering having his dissertation focused on this area. Yes, I have many stories connecting with men, which are incredible. And in ceremony, we all remember, I believe, how connected we are, and we've all heard this integration of the masculine and the feminine energies is also the way through for us collectively for our ascension process. So I am involved, okay, I'll briefly mention this. I'm involved in a 13 moon initiation group where we had a forgiveness ritual where men did come into the circle, and at least there was a beginning of that dialogue, of that sharing in ritual space. So I believe it's possible, yes, with the plant diets and deeper healing. Thank you.
I had a general question. It seems, I was at another ERIE event where the presenter talked about how in South America the focus is more to interact with the plant as a process of illumination rather than healing, and that when she comes here it's more of a medicine related to as the plants as a medicine, as a healing. So can anyone speak on relating to the plants as like not arriving to the plant needing healing, but maybe arriving to the plant just for the experience or just for the fun? Can anybody speak to that?
Let's see, was that the Carmen Vicente talk? Yeah, I thought that was really a wonderful talk too, and I think that it was interesting for me because we have a focus on our problems and our pain, and think that there are solutions that medicine can bring for us, but that we don't have to be sick or in pain to be able to gain positive experiences or insights or connections through entheogens. So I think she also experienced a more holistic community coming from where she was from, where they do have that connection, less of the division and less of the fragmentation, and they're in a place where they can really attain those types of interactions and insights into not just their holistic mind, but also into the energy of the world as a whole. And the respectful use, I understand what she's saying about wanting to have positive experiences through recreational use as well. And it seems that these are enriching and empowering and expanding substances to be under the influence of, and that we don't have to have something that we're trying to solve in order to get a benefit from these experiences, if that makes sense. Or
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you were speaking earlier how a lot of women, and I don't know what the statistics are, but how a lot of women are antidepressants and like the pharmaceutical shadow over our Western society, that like maybe as a society, more so than other societies, we do need healing. So we therefore relate to the plants as medicines come to cure us. Whereas maybe in another culture where it doesn't have to be in the context of a clinical setting because of the illegality of the drugs, then, and there's more expression, more freedom, none of the like, you know, I'm doing something wrong here that I have to like cover all my bases. Maybe that is also impacting how we have to relate in terms of like legally or socially.
Okay, so two things come up. The first is, how do we define healing? Some people define it as simply opening up to love, to the love energy. And so for me, I see community gatherings with various allies in the plant form or other as opportunities to be in celebration together, and that can be healing for a community, such as the Santa Diamond I'm thinking of. And the second is that what becomes very clear for me is how we are all connected, so we can be in a circle where we are showered with light and sparkling alligators, and we're in bliss, and that's beautiful, and that is holding space for other people who are maybe not, are having a challenging time in their journey. So energetically, the more of us who are willing to purify and be in that heart love, the more of us can come together in joy and wholeness, because I believe, yes, we are all whole. It's just why in North America do we see certain issues more so than other cultures and countries?
One other thing I want to add on to that is just remembering different ways to engage the plant world. So we have the opportunity to ingest certain entheogens, but we also have the opportunity to just meditate in the presence of flowers. When I was studying herbs in medical school, I would do a lot of solo hiking around in the desert and looking for plants and hanging out with them. And for a while I was a bit interested in pursuing a connection with datura. And datura is big medicine. And so I started by just going to visit different stands of plants. And there was some inner desire to like collect some and do something with them, but I kind of always got nervous, and so I just so many times I would go to these plants and just hang out with them, just sit with them. And two things come to mind. One time that I was there was this whole beautiful cascade of ladybugs crawling around, and I have an allegiance with the ladybug. So I thought that was kind of a nice sign or synchronicity. And then another time I spoke to my herb teacher about this desire to connect with this plant. His suggestion was, well, consider just picking a flower and laying it by your pillow when you go to sleep. So there's lots of different ways to connect with the entheogenic plants and non-entheogenic plants. I mean, all of them are entheogenic in a way or another. That doesn't have to be like, I'm sick, fix me, heal me, give me insight, show me pretty colors. It can be a more subtle start to the relationship that can be just as powerful and illuminative in a way that can lead to healing and doesn't necessarily have to come from a place of brokenness or desire or something like that. And I do think part of it is the cultural context that we're in here, particularly in the US, where it's, give me a pill to fix this and hurry up and make my phone work, and what do you mean this box isn't? It's like we're so used to moving fast and hurrying things, so there's an art to slowing down and to just being present, and that's all the plants. I mean, I'm amazed when I take the bus from home to school here and I just walk a few blocks from the bus stop, like what's literally coming out of the cracks of cement. I mean, life finds a way. It wants to. And so it's an invitation for us to do the same with it.
Just real quickly, and on the idea of healing versus illuminating, I think that it's also just part of the journey of, some cultures it may be easier to start on the illuminating scale, but I think after you do some healing, it's not always just about healing. Eventually you develop a relationship with the plants, and then it becomes your journey kind of ebbs and flows in totally different directions, and I think that the two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, that there's a bit of both.
Not a question, but I just wanted to add my thoughts to that discussion. Well, first I wanted to say I like what you were saying, and I know that there are studies that have shown that just seeing the color green has a beneficial effect on your mood. But also the healing versus illumination thing, one dimension I think to that is just our North American legal framework. And I feel like one example you could look at is medical marijuana. And it's an open secret in San Francisco that there are patients that use marijuana, very legitimately as medicine. And there are lots of people that use marijuana and get medical marijuana that would admit to not really using it in a healing or medicinal way. And I think that's legitimate, but I think that we have a system set up that sort of requires legitimization of substances through a healing framework, and sort of says it's not okay to enjoy, certain substances just because you enjoy them, or because they might be illuminating, or they might put you in a certain frame of mind that is beneficial to you. Outside of a couple of things that are sanctioned, like tobacco, alcohol, caffeine, a lot of other things are off limits. And so I feel like there's just this framework that we have where it's hard to do research on certain substances without there being a very tangible, like we are looking to, provide a solution to cluster headaches, for instance. It's hard to do, research without saying, oh, we're going to try to look at end-of-life studies. And I know, a lot of studies that MAPS funds, they go for that. But I know that a lot of the people that work in that framework also strongly believe in the value of these substances for non-healing or non-targeted healing purposes. I just think it's kind of part of our society, it's sort of the framework that we're working in.
One question also I have is that the mainstream media has historically, with few exceptions, namely alcohol and all, has been hostile to any kind of mind-altering drug use. It's there was the hysteria and sensationalism of a generation or two ago, but that accompanied the beginnings of a war on drugs. But more than that, I don't think any major newspaper has openly come out and said we need to end the war on drugs. They might back legalizing cannabis, which they might back medical marijuana. They might even say that we need to reduce penalties. But I have known of no major newspaper in this country, maybe I'm wrong, that has openly said that, well, there's the Orange County Register, but that's a libertarian rag, which is in a class by its own, and it's not major. It reflects a certain principled ideology, and it's not a major newspaper unless you live down in the Southern California. Yeah, and that's the only paper, and that's because it's one of the few papers that has any kind of consistent political philosophy. Most of them don't. They mostly are concerned with profit. Or can you comment?
I can't specifically comment, and maybe someone else can, about the different newspapers, but there was a National Geographic documentary that came out at the end of 2011 that basically profiled hallucinogens, and it was focusing mostly on their applications as medicine. And even though they said, and I pointed out that it was a controversial approach, that regardless of what we think, it's what did they say? They said it's a new medical frontier that isn't going away anytime soon. And the fact that something like National Geographic acknowledged that, I felt was a kind of a big step forward for this movement. Anybody else?
And our voices have power, and we have the power to make our own media sources and our own stories and form our own opinions and get the word out to everyone. So there are definitely frameworks in place that may restrict our viewpoints and this type of research, but that doesn't mean that we have to work within those frameworks. We can create our own framework, and then when the old ways are seen as no longer being functional, eventually, hopefully that will happen sometime soon, then we will have our own power and structures in place to be able to move into a more healthy society.